Giants clinched the playoffs for the first time since 2016, and they did so with Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback, which I don't think a lot of people really expected to see if you were talking like a couple years ago. So I want to talk about Daniel Jones' career, how he got overhated, how he got overlooked, and how his career was almost ruined like a couple times. So let's just dive into this right now. So as soon as Daniel Jones was drafted 6th overall by the Giants, he was just instantly hated. And no one really hated the person Daniel Jones. They just hated that he was drafted 6th overall whenever a lot of fans thought that he could be drafted maybe 17th overall, or maybe they could have gone a different route at quarterback, like maybe Dwayne Haskins, or maybe not even draft a quarterback, maybe draft Josh Allen. But you could look up a bunch of compilations. I mean, there's so many Giants fans that heard the pick and were just screaming at the television like it was bad for him. And with this all being said, I don't really hate the pick. I didn't even hate the pick then whenever I watched the draft live on my TV. The quarterback position is arguably the most important position on the football field. And if you love a quarterback, if you think he's your franchise guy, if you think he's going to lead you to a Super Bowl, you can't risk waiting until the 17th pick to take him. The Giants obviously loved Daniel Jones at the time, and they pulled the trigger for him. And I know Dave Gettleman truly had his downs as a GM, but even he said he felt that teams were going to draft Daniel Jones after the 6th pick and before the 17th pick. And since none of us really have any inside information on whether or not Daniel Jones would have been taken before the 17th pick, you got to trust Gettleman at that point. If he valued Daniel Jones this high and was pretty much risking that someone else would take him after the 6th pick in between the 17th pick, you just got to pull the trigger there. So I don't blame him for that pick at all. I mean, again, he had his downs, but you can't really blame him too much for that. So let's look at the start of Daniel Jones up to now. So these were Daniel Jones' stats from 2019 to 2022. As you can see, his rookie season statistically was a lot better than his next 2 seasons. Although 2022, I believe, was his best season. He looked a lot better than he did before, but that's just me. But here, let's look over on how his career was pretty much almost over a bunch of times. So when Daniel Jones was a rookie, Pat Shurmur was the Giants head coach. Now, Shurmur, I guess, wasn't the best of coaches. I really don't know, like, if he was not a good game plan guy or what the problem was. Obviously, he wasn't that great of a coach, or else he wouldn't have been fired after 2 seasons. But then again, I don't know. But what I do know about Shurmur is that he's an offensive-minded guy. Other than being a head coach for the Browns for a couple years, he was mainly either an offensive coordinator or a quarterback coach. He did a lot of stuff offensively. I believe he also has a son that's a quarterback, or used to be a quarterback for Vanderbilt, so that's also, something to keep your eye on. But what I'm trying to say is that Shurmur is an offensive-minded coach. And for a guy like Daniel Jones, who, a lot of people were kind of skeptical of whenever they drafted him, you needed really a strong offensive guy to help him develop. And to start his rookie year, it looked like that. I mean, Daniel Jones looked really, polished, or ahead of a lot of the other rookies that would be in his spot. In fact, I believe he had a 5-touchdown game with no interceptions, which, was pretty cool. Especially as a rookie. That's pretty insane. But no, Daniel Jones definitely looked like a more polished quarterback, especially as a rookie. And, I think that had something to do with Shurmur. Again, I could be wrong, but it's hard to have a rookie season where you throw 24 touchdown passes and the head coach, which is an offensive-minded guy, had nothing to do with it. I think that was definitely something in Shurmur's hands on how Daniel Jones ended up having a pretty solid rookie season. And at the time, Daniel Jones' biggest weakness was the fumbles. I think that's been pretty apparent throughout his career. He struggled with the fumbles. That's something that could definitely be worked on. But other than that, even though the Giants lost a lot of games that year, it looked like Daniel Jones was going to become a pretty good quarterback for the Giants. However, after that season, they fired Pat Shurmur, and obviously he didn't have the best stint with the Giants, but I thought they could have been a little bit more patient, especially with their rookie quarterback, and he was starting to show some progress as a quarterback. I think that there could have been something there, but they fired him. Maybe he wasn't the greatest game plan guy. I'm not a Giants fan, so I don't really know too much. But he got fired, and the Giants ended up hiring Joe Judge. Now, Joe Judge was a special teams coordinator type guy with the Patriots. He definitely had a lot of experience with winning, especially with the Patriots and especially at Alabama before that. He also did some work with the wide receivers too, so he was definitely leaning more towards the offensive side of the ball. And yeah, it's kind of weird having a special teams coordinator be hired as a head coach, but that was what John Harbaugh used to do, and obviously he won a Super Bowl, so that ended up working out for the Ravens. And I don't know if he was the right guy that helped Daniel Jones develop to an even better quarterback. But, you never know. You don't have to have an offensive-minded head coach to help a quarterback develop. But it's preferred just because, usually you end up hiring a head coach that's offensive-minded that had success helping some quarterback from another system as an offensive coordinator end up developing. So you kind of take that head coach in to help that quarterback develop too, to hopefully that ends up working out for them. But in the 2 years Daniel Jones played under Joe Judge, he did not do that great at all. He was solid. He was never this guy that was, awful, that would lose you a bunch of games, but he was never taking that next step that we kind of expected after his rookie season. And again, I'll show up his numbers in his 2 seasons with Joe Judge. Obviously, they could be better. They didn't really win a lot of games with him. It was just kind of a disaster all around. And so going into 2022, a lot of people felt like this was Daniel Jones's make or break season. He needed to do something to give the Giants some life, or to give him himself something to, build off of, so that he can maybe sign a bigger contract. And so after the Giants declined his 5th-year option, that kind of made sense, going into 2022. Dave Gettleman wasn't there anymore. Both head coaches he was under were gone. So it was just, you didn't have anyone that was forced to commit to Daniel Jones because they never drafted him. They never helped him develop. But the Giants ended up making just a fantastic hiring in head coach Brian Daboll. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard this all around, but Daboll was the offensive coordinator for the Bills since around the time Josh Allen got drafted. And Daboll was a guy that was looked at as the main reason that Josh Allen ended up developing. So he was like the main coach that really helped him take that next step into a quarterback. And now Josh Allen obviously is a top 3 quarterback in the league. So that's a fantastic hiring, especially if the team ended up having just a little bit of hope in Daniel Jones. This was definitely something, that was going to be good for him to help him develop. And honestly, this could not have gone better for Daniel Jones and the Giants. And also remember, before Brian Daboll was hired, and they hired pretty much a new staff, especially a new offensive coordinator, Daniel Jones' 2 worst seasons were under Jason Garrett as offensive coordinator. So obviously Garrett didn't have the best rep as a head coach for the Cowboys. And usually some head coaches that don't succeed are also pretty good coordinators, but it ended up not working out with Garrett. So obviously he's gone. But I just want to note that's who Daniel Jones had as his coordinator at that time. And Brian Daboll miraculously made the Giants a playoff team. And I'm pretty sure no one expected this. The Giants haven't made the playoffs since 2016. They haven't shown any improvement the past couple of years. Also, if you look at this 2022 season, the Giants definitely had a good roster. And Daniel Jones did what he needed to do to win. And Daboll was smart too. He saw that Daniel Jones in his career would average 5 to 6 yards per carry. So he ended up utilizing the running game with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones ran for a lot more rushing yards than he ever had in the season. That really helped them, expand the offense a little bit more. They were able to do a lot with Daniel Jones, and obviously Saquon Barkley was a huge factor in the offense as well. He had just a monster season. Daniel Jones definitely had the type of season where he's going to sign somewhere next offseason for a lot more money than he was supposed to. I don't know if it's going to be long term. I really don't know how other teams view him, or if he ends up re-signing with the Giants. We have no idea what's going to end up happening. With this being said, Daniel Jones still had a pretty good season. And the Giants didn't make it easy on Daniel Jones. Brian Daboll was his 3rd head coach in Jones's 4th season in the NFL. Obviously that could lead to disaster. But the Giants finally made a home run hire at head coach. And that really helped Daniel Jones really develop. Daboll obviously believed in Daniel Jones. And so with the general manager. If they didn't, he wouldn't have been the quarterback this year. But they believed in him, at least believed in him enough to start him this year. And that really paid off, because I don't know many other quarterbacks that they could have gotten. Maybe they could have gotten Jimmy G. I don't really know. But I don't know how many quarterbacks they could have gotten and traded for to get them to the playoffs. So you gotta give at least a little bit of credit to Daniel Jones, whether you believe he was the main reason or not. In this video, the main thing that I want to explain to you guys is that Daniel Jones' career was almost really gonna take a tough turn. The Giants didn't really give him too much help. They tried to. To be fair, they gave him Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney, who was drafted in the 1st round. And obviously those two didn't pan out, whether it was injuries or underperforming. Toney's not even on the team anymore. He's actually doing pretty well in the Chiefs. And Golladay just hasn't seen the field. But Daniel Jones was making it work. And the Giants, with their creative offense and their fantastic head coach, they were able to push for a playoff spot and were able to capture a 6th seed. And I don't know, I think that's impressive. And I think Daniel Jones, again, deserves a lot of credit for that. But what was supposed to be a rocky season for the Giants, and potentially Daniel Jones' end of his career as a starter, it ended up turning into a playoff year. A quarterback who's gonna expect some sort of payday in the next offseason, and a team whose who, in my opinion, is in pretty good hands for the future. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think Daniel Jones stays as a Giant? Do you think he's going to go elsewhere? I think what would be like very interesting is that if the Giants ended up picking up Daniel Jones's 5th-year option and they didn't really want to commit to him, what if, they traded him to the Jets for Zach Wilson and a few draft picks? I think that would be fun. Obviously, that will never happen, but, that's just something I kept in mind. I think that would be a very cool scenario because I think the Jets would do really well with a veteran quarterback opposed to a rookie quarterback, especially with a defensive-minded head coach. But hey, I don't know what the future holds. Comment down below what you guys think will happen to Daniel Jones. Comment down below what you think the Giants will do in the playoffs and what the Giants will be in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed me kind of rambling on a little bit, and I'll see you in the next video.